So for no good reason, I'm going to do this one backwards. For no good reason. So here's the bonus. It's the only one on this one. You're supposed to find the difference quotient, which is f of x plus h, take away f of x over h for this function. So I'm going to start by doing the f of x plus h piece, which means that every x I encounter becomes an x plus h. Now the first piece is squared, which means you write it twice. And we're going to have to figure out what x plus h times x plus h is. Well, x times x is x squared. X times h is an xh. X times h again is another xh, which means that there were two of them, just like there always will be. And then h times h is h squared. Go ahead and distribute this, minus 3x minus 3h plus a 7. I know at this point in time, half of you think this is way too much work. Anyways, that ends up being, if we distribute our 4x squared plus 8xh plus 4h squared. And then minus the rest of this crap. Okay, I'm going to start plugging into the actual quotient now here. So all of this and it says take away the original function. So take that away. And I'm just going to wrap it in a set of parentheses. 2 or more you wrap. And it's all sitting pretty over h. Now, this is always true. Whatever's in here cancels with whatever's out here. If there's a 4x squared on the inside, you're taking away from a positive 4x squared. If there's a negative 3x on the inside, it's going to cancel out with a negative 3x on the outside because you're doing minus a negative. So there's a really quick reduction on every one of these that happens immediately. And you're left with 8xh plus, actually I'm going to change the order here. Don't let that confuse you. There's a reason I'm changing the order. It's because I want the h's to be the last thing. Plus 4h squared all over h. Now each of these four pieces has a common factor of an h, which means I can just throw it out the window. Now, if you throw an h away from that guy, you still got one h left, so plus 4h. And that's the difference quotient, also known as the instantaneous rate of change, also known as a derivative. So anyways, learn that, okay? Again, doing the whole thing backwards. We're going to start with this one. If f of x is if f of x equals negative 2 were graphed on the same plane, which means the same flat piece of paper, what solutions would there be to the new system? So remember, this is y equals negative 2. And several of you guys still have not figured out how to graph that, but it's this guy right here. Now, how many intersections would there be? Well, that was open. So there's no intersection there. There's just one. Now, I'm not even asking what they are. There's only one solution. Plain and simple. Just one solution. All right. 26. Find f of 4 if it exists. So again, this means what is y when x is 4? I keep writing that down, but I don't know, some of you guys just don't want to admit it. If you don't know what f of 4 means, you should probably be writing things down. What is y when x equals 4? So when x is 4, it looks to me like the y value is 0. Alright, so there we go. F of 4 is 0. Find f of 2 if it exists. If it does not exist, state why. Well, it doesn't exist because there's a hole in the graph. In fact, x is not even allowed to be 2. I'll accept hole in the graph, or x equals 2 is not in the domain. Because it's not in the domain of this function. X is not allowed to be 2. It was a dumb question to ask in the first place. The average rate of change, the one that gets so many kids. You know, if you're a STEM major and you don't understand average rate of change, you're not a STEM major. That's all I can tell you. So when x is negative 6, this is where I am. When x is 2, this would be kind of where I am, even though I'm not quite there, but that's where I'd be. I can be like, 1.9999999. I can get really close to that too, so I'm essentially there. What did I do? I rose 3, 6. I rose 6, and I ran, looks to me like 8, which is 3/4. That's my average rate of change. State the z-y-intercept. I went on a rant earlier in a video about this, but this is the y-intercept, and it's at 0, 3. I don't understand juniors who can't pick out an x and a y-intercept. I've seen you every year of my career. I don't understand how you got here. You're like a turtle on a post. You couldn't get up there yourself. Somebody put you there, and now you're stuck. Alright, state the intervals where the graph is constant. That means flat line. Constant means flat line, flat horizontal line at that, because the y value does not change. The y value does not change from here to here. So it's an interval from -2 to +2. Decreasing, that means downhill, right? It doesn't exist. You could say D and E. You might do what's called the null set, something like that. Null. Increasing, there's actually a couple of places where this graph is increasing. From there to there, and there to there. So this interval is -6 to -4. And there's nothing here, so I have to talk about from -4 to 2. And then I have this interval over here, which goes from 2 to 6. So between where x is -6 and -4, between where x is -4 and -2, should be negative, and between where x is 2 and 6. Range is going to be your values of y, so I see a value at -3, and even though there's a hole here, y is 0 over here, I get to rise up to here where y is 3, and this line finishes it, so it's from -3 to 3. Domain is your x values running from left to right. I can start at -6, but there's a hole at -4, and there's nothing above it or below it that lets x be -4. So parentheses on that. Union with the other side of 4, and I can walk all across this segment until I hit 2. And there's not a solid dot down here, so I just have to start on the other side of 2. And then I get to walk until I hit 7. I think they're easy, but then again, I've done this a long time. I don't remember it being difficult as a kid, though. You'll need to figure it out. Okay, this one, maybe this time we can get up to 15 kids getting it right. So below is a graph of f of x. G of x is defined as -f of x plus 2 minus 3. Let's see here. Let's line this up with our general transformation forms. AFs of b times x minus h plus k. B is 1 because, you know, there's 1 times x plus 2, so that's nothing. H is -2, and that means that we shift left 2. A is -1, that means we multiply y by -1. Am I looking at the equation right? I am. Good. And the last letter is k, and k is -3. We shift down 3. And again, you got to follow the correct order. Bahak. So B is 1. That does nothing. Okay, it doesn't change a thing. H is -2, so we're going to shift everything left 2 units. So that's going to go there. That's going to go there. You're going to go here. Oh, that's only 1 unit. Start over on that. I didn't look at the grid now, did I? 0 to 2. That's going to go there. That's going to go there. That dude's there. That dude's there. Okay, done with that one. A is -1, which means you multiply the y values by a -1. So I'll be down here because I'm taking that y value of 4 and multiplying it by a -1. Not going to move because the y value is 0. I was 3 above, now I'll be 3 below. I was 3 above, now I'll be 3 below. And what do we have here? I feel like I didn't draw that right. No, I didn't. It goes like that. Got a bit of a headache. There we go. Now, here's the one I'm actually going to put over here. Down 3. Okay, so where was I here? I was at -4, -4. So now I'm going to be at -4, -7. This is going to be at -2, -3. This guy was at -1, -3. And I'm going to drop it down 3. So -1, -6. And this guy was at 0, -3. It's going to be right there. Ta-da! Pause real quick and I'll be right back. And I'm back. Alright, so to do this one, you have to memorize a rule. The explicit rule for an arithmetic sequence is that the nth term, a sub n, it's not pronounced an, it's not said an. A sub n is a sub 1, the first term, plus n minus 1 times the common difference d. And you can put the d out in front if you want. It makes the distributive property easier. It really does. So, you know, lots of issues kids have. Some kids just barely grasp third grade math. But the difference between -5 and 2 is 7. And that holds. The difference between 2 and 9 is also 7. And the first term is obviously -5. And then we just do substitution, bruh. Like, bruh. This is not hard. It's not rocket science. If I see a sub 1, it's -5. D is 7. I'm just going to plug in. And we make this look like y equals mx plus b, which is an issue because some of you still have no idea what y equals mx plus b is. Blows my mind. Anyways, if I can type here, I'm struggling. We have -5 plus, if I invoke the distributive property, 7n minus 7, and I combine my like terms. I had to put this on this basics quiz because it was so missed, and I knew it would be on your last quiz, and it's such a simple problem. There we go, 7n minus 12. Ta-da! If you know what -5 plus a -7 is, which is also a problem. 14, solve the linear system using substitution, the transitive property, or elimination. Of course, if you know me, you know darn well I'm playing the elimination game. That's what I'm going to play. I'm going to play elimination. So I'm going to triple the top equation. Not triple. I'm going to double the top equation and make it 16x minus 12y equal to -40. And the reason I did that is because suddenly the x's become what we call additive inverses of each other. An additive inverse is when two things add together to equal 0. -12 plus 7 is going to be a -5y, and -40 plus 30, last I checked, was -10. Now, if you divide by a -5, you get a +2. Now, what can I do with that 2? I can take that 2 and I can plug it back in using substitution. I can put it right there. 8x minus 6 times 2 is supposed to be -20. 6 times 2, last I checked, was -12. Well, negative times positive. If I add 12 to both sides, I get -8, which means my x value is -1, which means I have the ordered pair, because that's how it's going to be presented, of -1, 2. And by the way, work is required. Work is always required. Alright, given 13, a line passed through the point -3, 4 has a slope of 1/3, and normally I teach point slope form, but like I really want y'all to get transformation ideas down. So just use this, okay? A is the slope, and h, k is a point on the line. We're on like week 5 of this crap. Like, you should be getting this, but you're not, and I don't know what's wrong with you. I really don't. I don't know. How many times we got to repeat the same thing? Like, if you were the fry guy at McDonald's, I'd have to fire you because you obviously can't do anything. I'm being incredibly sarcastic there, but the point is we have done this and done this and done this. A is going to be 1/3. Then it goes x minus h, so minus a -3, and then plus 4. And last I checked, taking away a negative was addition. Last I checked, a third times x is a third x. Last I checked, 1/3 of 3 is 1. And then you got the plus 4, right? Right. So we end up with this guy. Y equals a third of x plus a 5. Ta-da! Alright, moving on to 12, which is the average rate of change. And by the way, if you are watching this video, copy all the work. Just saying. To do number 12, you need a formula. And the formula for the average rate of change, which is also known as slope, is f of b, take away f of a, sitting pretty over b minus a. You get a and b here. They're x values that you plug in. So you're going to have to figure out what f of 5 is to do this problem. And that would be 2 times a 5 squared minus 3 times a 5. Last I checked, 5 squared was 25. Times 2 is 50. And then we're taking away 15, because that's what 3 times 5 is, boys and girls, and we get 35. Okay. Here's the hard part. You're also going to have to figure out f of negative 2. So twice a negative 2 squared minus 3 times a negative 2. Well, what is that going to be? A negative 2 that is squared is 4, times a 2 is 8. A negative times a negative is positive, so we end up with 8 plus 6, which is 14. And now I can feed this formula. F of b was 35. We're supposed to take away f of a, which is 14. And we're sitting pretty over b minus a. 5 minus a negative 2. So the bottom's easy, that's 7. 35 minus 14, I reckon, is 21. And 21 over 7 is 3. Not hard. Of course, you know, some of you kids still don't know the formula for slope, which is taught to you in 7th grade. It is taught to you in 7th grade. You can even use rise over run if you want. Like it rises, I'm looking at the numbers right now. It rises 6 and it runs 8. It's going to be 3 over 4. Do you see that? It rises 6 units and it runs 8, because that's how far apart negative 3 and 5 are, but whatever. Slope is going to be 12 minus 6 over 5, take away a negative 3. The reason we have to teach you this one is because you just can't figure out numbers. 12 minus 6 is 6, 5 take away negative 3 is 8, and 6/8 is 3/4 when everything is said done. So rise 3, run 4 between those 2 points. Working backwards, on 11 you're supposed to find f plus g of 2. It's also commonly written as f of 2 plus g of 2. Which means you need to feed these things a 2. Like, what is f of 2? F of 2 is simply 3 times a 2 minus a 7. Well, that's 6 minus 7, which is negative 1. G of 2 is 4 times a 2, and I'm getting that by looking at function g, kids, which is 8 minus 5, which is 3. So this was negative 1. I'm supposed to add 3 to it, and I get, by God, ironically enough, 2. I wasn't expecting that. On 9 and 10, you're supposed to find f of negative 3 and g of negative 3, respectively. G of negative 3, again, means x equals negative 3 in function g. So it's going to be 4 times a negative 3, take away a 5. 4 times a negative 3 is negative 12. Negative 12 take away 5, believe it or not, is not negative 7 or positive 7. It's negative 17. Several of y'all need to learn how to add. We're going to take that negative 3, let's take it right there. It's going to be 3 times the negative 3, take away a 7. Last I checked, 3 times the negative 3 was negative 9. Negative 9 take away a 7, again, is negative 16. It's not negative 2. Quit being that kid. It's negative 16. Alright, 8 to go. I'm going to pause real quick. I'll be right back. Ooh, it's factoring, your favorite. You like factoring, right? Alright, I'm back. So, you know, here's the reason. The reason kids can't factor is they can't add or subtract, not without technology, not properly, and they don't know their multiplication tables. If you could go back in time and kick 5th grade math you in the butt, do it, because you'd be a lot better at factoring. They also don't understand foiling. And that's another big issue. They also don't know how to FOIL, first, outer, inner, last. Anywho, to make a 7x squared, it takes a 7x and an x, because that creates that piece right there. Factors of 12 could be 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. I'm going to go with 3 and 4, and I'm actually going to put them in the order I mentioned because I know how to multiply. 7x times 4 is 28x. 3 times x is 3x. And I also know how to add and subtract. The number in the middle, 28x and 3x, if put together, should be 25x. And the way you do that is you subtract 3 of them. Negative, positive, bruh. That's how hard that is. It ain't hard. Alright, what's it take to make an x squared? It takes an x and an x. What's it take to make an 8? Probably a 1 and an 8. I need to add the negative 7, so the 8's negative, the 1 is positive. Now, I just mentioned that kids can't FOIL because they can't. 20% of this year's juniors cannot FOIL. If you were holding on to the side of a ledge with one hand holding you up, and you said, Milbrath, pick me up, and I said, FOIL this, I just have to let you fall. So I'm just going to have to let you fail, plain and simple. 2x times 6x, 12x squared. 2x times 2 plus 4x, inside, negative 5 times 6x, not plus, minus, because the negative times a positive is a negative, minus 30x, negative 5 times 2, minus 10. Combine like terms, there are 12x squareds, there are negative 26x's, and then we have the minus 10. The one up above it, number 5, is kind of unique. It's what you call a difference of 2 squares when everything works its way out, because of what happens. When you do x times x and you get the x squared, here you get a minus 4x, here you get a plus 4x, and then there you get a minus 16. And what happens is those two annihilate each other, and you're left with x squared minus 16. Again, that's called a difference of 2 squares, because both of these pieces are squares and there's a subtraction sign in between them. And moving on to, let's do ACT first. Find the tangent of angle A for the triangle below. So you need to know SOHCAHTOA. I mean, you got a geometry credit last year, right? So you got to know SOHCAHTOA. And you're looking at angle A. And I'm doing tangent, so I'm on this. It's opposite over adjacent, and the 5 is opposite of the angle A. 5 root 3 is adjacent to angle A, and 10, of course, is the hypotenuse. So if I set up the tangent of angle A, I would do 5 over 5 root 3. And I'd cancel out the 5's, and I'd have 1 over root 3. And I know you did this in Cantrell's room, and I know you did stuff like this with Miss Garner. You need to multiply the top and bottom by the radical 3 to make the number be prettier. It's actually called rationalizing the denominator. It's not proper to have a radical in the denominator. Now, a root times itself is the number inside, and 1 times anything is the anything. So, root 3 over 3, final answer. Alright, to do this one, you have to know, again, this is from geometry, that the STD form of a circle is x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equal to r squared. You get h and k here, and that's obviously, r is for radius. What else do you think it was for? You're going to take away the h thing, so take away a negative 9 quantity squared. You're going to take away 12 there, and here you're going to have to square the 7. So we have x plus 9 quantity squared plus y minus 12 quantity squared, and that'd be 49. So easy. 4 to go. I need to hurry up. I don't have much time. Be right back. Alright, looking at 4, and 4 is something that really bothers. You're supposed to isolate this. And I wish algebra would click for y'all. But first thing I need to do is I need to get these parentheses gone. And I'm not going to do the distributive property. I'm going to divide both sides by m. Because the opposite of the understood multiplier, which some of y'all don't seem to understand is there, is division. So I divide the m out. y minus y1 over m is x minus x1. The next move is easy. Move the x over. Now, you're not going to be able to put it up there with this stuff because it doesn't have a denominator of m, and you can't combine or add fractions unless you have a common denominator, and I'm not worried about it. The next move is to divide out the negativity, okay? And when you divide, negativity is supposed to be held in the numerator. So we're going to put a negative in front of the numerator. Negative over negative is positive. And that is x1, boys and girls. Now, you should distribute this. You should get negative y plus y1 over m plus x equals x1. I won't make a quiz quite as bad as this one, but we need to learn how to work opposite and work backwards, because that's exactly what algebra is. 3 going to be one of those, prove me wrong here, but most of you miss it because you will not write two equations. You never do. Why would you today? First step, isolate absolute value. Okay, so I'm going to 5 both sides. That's going to give me twice the absolute value of 9x minus 4 equals 50 minus 4x. And you could distribute the 2, or on this one you can divide it out. I'm going to divide the 2 out. That's going to give me the absolute value of 9x minus 4. And notice I did not multiply this stuff by 5. A lot of y'all do that. The 5's cancel on the left-hand side. I'm going to divide the 2 out because these are both even numbers. If you don't know what an even number is, that's part of your problem. And now I'm going to write two equations. 9x minus 4 is 25 minus 2x, or, and hear me out, I change the signs on the stuff inside. Negative 9x plus 4 is 25 minus twice x. Alright, let's shift our x's left here. That's 11x. Numbers right, that's 29, because 25 plus 4 is 29. Divide by 11, we get 29 elevenths. This time let's go right. Negative 2 plus 9 is 7x, and 4 minus 25 is negative 21. Divide by 7, and x is negative 3. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, but most of you will miss it because that's what you do. You miss it. Oh, lordy, number 2 got a fraction. What are you going to do? Well, you're going to put your x's on one side and your numbers on the other, and I am going to shift right. Now, let's say that you're in Mr. Milbrath's class and you can't math, okay? Which is quite a few of you, to be quite honest. We're going to shift that quarter over and we're going to do subtraction. And I don't know what 9 minus a quarter is. I don't have a clue. I do. I'm just being you. It's 8.75. Milbrath likes fractions. Convert back to a frac. There's 35/4 of x on the right-hand side. By the way, I did things in a calculator. Do you know how to use your calculator? If my x's are going right, good chance my numbers are going left. Negative 7 plus 12 is 5. If you don't know that, push your buttons. Now, isolation here is technically divide both sides by 35/4. It should be 4 over 7 when everything's said and done. Let's see. We are taking 5 and we are dividing by it. Notice the use of parentheses here. 35/4. Math, and it's a frac. 4 sevenths. What did I say? Wow. Anyways, 5/7 less than x. Now read that like you're Asian for a second. It's x greater than 5/7. That was probably a little bit inappropriate, but you know that's how they read it. They read over there from right to left, opposite of us. Alright, there's that one. And I push buttons in a calculator, and so can you. I'll probably let you use your calculator, because bless y'all. That's all I can say. Bless you. Alright. I am going to do this one by clearing the fraction. 3's cancel. Leaves me with twice 3x minus 4 is equal to 24. I notice a lot of kids forgot to triple the other side. I could divide the 2 out. I could also do the distributive property. Most people do the distributive property. 6x minus 8 equals 24. We add 8 to both sides. 6x is 32. We divide by 6, and of course we simplify the fraction. Both 32 and 6 are even, which means they're automatically divisible by 2. And 32 divided by 2 is 16. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. 16/3. Final answer. There you go. God, that took me way too long trying to explain that to y'all. I hope it was worth it, because that's 30 minutes of my life I don't get back. You owe me 30 minutes.